Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 9th, 2023 Landmarks Commission meeting. We are getting up and running. I think we're there. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio Open Meeting Law and Section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal from any case due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the records prior to the beginning of the presentation. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, virtual attendants will use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile versions by activating and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand icon again and muting your microphone. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activities are being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through the proper channels have been considered. Proper channels for communications are sending an email to landmarks@clevelandohio.gov email address with a comment or a letter, calling or leaving a message at 216-664-2532, or sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall located at 601 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 519. Communications with a member of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the stated deadline are collected by Landmark staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting.
To go over the meeting rules and procedures, the chair will call each agenda item and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation is concluded, the chair will ask Landmark staff to summarize design review committee recommendations and any public comments received. The deadline for public comment is noon on the Tuesday prior to any regularly scheduled Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting. Any received comments are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting. Staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff. The commission will then begin deliberations and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called.
We'd like to call the November 9th, 2023 Landmarks Commission meeting to order. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson? Mr. Dreyer?
Here.
Mr. Edmond?
Here.
Councilmember Gray? See her but don't hear her. Director Wong? Mr. Sambry?
Here.
Mr. Strickland?
Here.
Mr. Trasick?
Here.
Dr. Williams? Dr. Williams? Looked like
yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. And then Ms. Trott.
Here.
All right. Madam Chair, we have a quorum. In addition to the commission members, we also have Kevin Roberts, a representative from the Law Department, as well as Jessica Beam, Carl Bremses, and myself from Landmark staff.
Excellent. Well, then we'll begin with reports. Yep, just forwarded.
If you want to stand or sit here, whichever you're more comfortable with.
Or walk around, whatever.
Yeah.
You want.
Good
morning. I'm Tom Einhaus. I'm the Vice President of Facilities and Capital for Playhouse Square. And I was asked to give an update on the design of the Allen Theater marquee, which was approved by this body, gosh, was it back in March possibly? At any rate, after we presented this marquee design, I'll move into what the progression of designs are. We had the upper left was the original design that was approved by this body. We took that to the, we're using historic tax credits on the building, so we had to then present that to the State Historic Preservation Office, who said, yep, that's fine. And then when they sent it to the National Park Service, the reviewer decided that it wasn't fine, based on her deep experience with marquees across the world. Sorry, had to add there a little bit. We then went through probably about a month of different iterations, going through the options A, B, C, and finally the final option was the one that was approved. Basically, they wanted everything simplified, so we started off with taking the kind of the filigree off the front, and that wasn't good enough. And then we further took some of the detailing off the front, and then we threw out something that was kind of different, which was the deco. And then finally we got to the simplified one, took the finials off and all the ornament, and that's what was approved. We were well into what we were doing, and we felt at the time too that there was a kind of a consideration between landmarks and the National Park Service on appropriateness, etc. So we proceeded, and since then I've been asked to come back and explain how we ended up where we are today. So that's that. I don't know if there's any comment on that, but I do have some other pictures of the actual marquees if you'd like me to just continue.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's the final design in a rendering version. That's the National Park Service amendments if anyone's interested in reading them. That is the actual marquee in place. Moving down the line, then we see the other marquees that was also approved by this body. That's the Ohio Theater, obviously, the Key Bank State Theater, the Conard Palace Theater. They really do quite a bit more than you're seeing here. All of the colors on the facades can be changed to any color in the rainbow. We have over 2,500 presets on these for different themes, holidays, sporting events. And we are looking at these marquees and all of the digital assets in Playhouse Square as kind of town square for anything happening in the city of Cleveland. So we'll celebrate events, Juneteenth, the Art Museum doing a new display, the Rock Hall inductees, etc. Accomplishments by our sports teams. There they are at night under different colors. That was the opening night that we had on September 28th. There they are by day. Some more shots. There is the Hannah Theater, which I don't know is in the purview of this group or not, but nonetheless, there it is. I was asked to also talk a bit about what other projects we're doing. So on the Bulkley building, which you can see, it's the farthest building down, the big one. We are doing a $3.5 million restoration of the facade of that building. It's 100 years old. The cornice is deteriorated. All the stones need to be repinned. So that work will be going on. Scaffolding is going up as we speak. That will remain in place for a year. Additionally, at the far end of that building is a buck hoist that runs up to the 8th floor. We're putting in 84 units of apartments. And Dixon Eaton will be moving into the top 2 floors, and then Playhouse Square occupies the 2nd floor. Other work that we're doing, well, mostly all of the work that we're doing is there. I guess that's it. Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you for the update. We'll transition to questions and comments then from the commission. Mr. Edmond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to say how exciting this is, and I've seen these in real life. I think it's a little bit too bad that you had to tone down the one, but it's still I don't think it detracts from the overall impression that this is a really vibrant urban space. And in terms of the decorative nature, I mean, hey, this is theater, right? This is I think it's appropriate in that context, and very excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edmund. Mr. Strickland?
Madam Chair, I'll just echo Mr. Edmund's comments. I've also seen them in place, and it's just so impactful and dynamic for Playhouse Square. And so I commend Tom and the whole organization for taking on this initiative. And it's just a fantastic element to present to visitors to our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Mr. Tarasik?
Yeah, I'd like to echo the same thoughts. I just live a few blocks away from that, and I see it almost on a daily basis. It's absolutely stunning in the evening. And on a personal note, I was on the board of directors with the Cleveland Playhouse when the Allen Theater was first moved down into Playhouse Square a number of years ago. And it's really great to see this, what I consider being the finishing touch on that on the outside. So it's absolutely stunning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarasik. I think my commission members have said it all. Thank you for your commitment to the area and to restoring, and maintaining this entire district. I think although I personally like the original one, I think what you've installed is very impactful. Nonetheless, so thank you for everything.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Not seeing any. Mr. Trosick, was that, did you have an additional comment, or was that left over from your comment? I think that was
My
just
apologies. I forgot to put my hand down. Sorry.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you for the update. We appreciate it. And good luck with the restoration of the
Thanks,
bulk.
Tom. Thank you.
That concludes our reports for this meeting. We'll move on to certificates of appropriateness. We'll begin with our first applicant located at 1944 East 124th Street, new construction and demolition of single-family home.
Good morning. My name is Fred Margulies with Onyx Creative. I'm here with Rich and Robin Garcia and their future son-in-law, who I just met for the first time. I'm sorry. Marcos. And we're here for a new, basically two items. One, the demolition of the existing house at 1944 East 124th Place, and then the construction of a new home in its place. Little history, Rich and Robin live in the area. They're literally residents, and they built the home adjacent to this for their other daughter, who now resides there and moved in last year. And just a little item. So this is directly adjacent to this house. Just talking about the demolition of the existing house. It is in ill repair. It is vinyl sided currently. The basement is, as you can see in the middle slide at the top, a swimming pool when it rains. To repair this, it would have to be totally rebuilt. Framing sags in many places. There isn't really much in this house that is worthy of salvaging. And from what I know, we've been on tour here, so I know there are other comments, but it's just one of those items that we're really looking to obviously get that approved for tear down. So with this new home, this is for their other daughter, like I said, and future son-in-law. And what we're looking for is the approval for a house that would require a couple of variants. One, we are wanting to build an attached garage in the front. front facing right up, at this, more at this, closer to the street. And the second one is just setback variances, side yard setbacks, based on the existing housing. The existing house itself is already, was built over what was the side setback, so we're basically just trying to emulate that and just stay within that kind of, to give us the relationships that the code allows between the adjacent houses, because we have to build further away from the house to our left because of their bump out on the second level. So we have a 6-foot setback from our property. And so on the right side, we are looking for, I believe it's a 1-foot setback, because that's where the house, when we built the first house, we did a 5-foot setback because of the existing house and where it was located. During the construction, the Garcias actually bought this adjacent property. So our plans were already in the work on the first house when they opted to purchase this to do something special here again. Getting back to the design of the house, on your first meeting, we listened to all the comments, and we definitely, I'd like to think we addressed them. We looked at them. I knew one of the items was we had basically an enclosed front door. We wanted to create that more open visual front porch as best we could. We changed the garage doors to a double set of doors. It's an interesting company. They make a garage door. It is an overhead sectional door, but when it's down, they look like French doors, glass and all. And we feel it's a great look as you're walking around the neighborhood. And I know the neighborhood conversation becomes a walkability, and we're trying to make an addition to this neighborhood, creating an attractive. It also, on the second level, the porch there is overhanging more, it's more open from our first detail. One of the biggest items, the comments, our first design had a low slope roof relative to what is kind of, you see it in Little Italy. So we changed the design of the roof line, creating the reverse gables to use the 12-12 pitch. As you see, in the design, so we have a nice variation from side to side as elements that get features. One of the other items discussed, we felt, we wanted to stay with the metal roof concept. We know houses are using that more, and we definitely see that as this works with our house. The other items that was definitely changed was more materialistic. Our first house presented to you was a stucco finish house, and what we're using in Hardie products. And we had stone, and we're using brick as accents, but we were also using lap siding to create our base, our strong base coming up from the top, and using a Hardie smooth architectural panel to create that nice clean detail at the top, and still using our natural wood accents as part of the feature of what we're trying to achieve with this house. Robin, did you have anything to add to this?
As far as describing the house, or the garage, it's hard to see it on a picture, but the garage is actually set back. So there will be a space deep enough for a car in the front, although we don't intend to park on it all the time. It'll be covered with grass. So it will look, not only will you just see windows, a wall of windows, but you'll see a yard as well, and then a welcoming front door to the right side of the wall of windows.
Yeah.
So it's made of,
as you can see in the left side image.
yeah, you can see how it sets back. So it's not like in your face as here's a garage on the street. It's still a welcoming front yard, fits into a neighborhood setting, place for grass to grow and make a nice entry to the home.
And I think, one thing I do want to add is we did explore the concept of what if. and looking at the detached garage, the way we had, and what were our limits were in terms of the size house that we could achieve here. And that idea where the second level actually overhangs the driveway a little bit, just to create a little bit more space to kind of create even a second floor at best. I didn't even explore elevations because I didn't even like the idea of just the overhang on one side. It just didn't make sense, didn't really fit in terms of what we can make that look good. And, you know, the intent of just trying to create something that was going to function properly. On the first level, you come in the house, you got to walk through spaces to get to other spaces because of the narrowness, what we're dealing with here. And the idea is we want to keep these people here. We want them to be here, raise a family here. And that's their goal, just like the first house. It's the goal. I mean, obviously the first house, it is a detached garage, but you had the convenience of the side garage, so we had the ability to have a green space. There is lack of green space when you deal with a detached garage, even in the smaller footprint here, because we're dealing with maybe 22% green space. But if we do the other item, if we do it the other with the attached garage, we now have about 50% green space. And I think that's critical, a lot of these environments. We're a lot more advantage to, obviously, and beautification of the area by allowing this to happen. You know, so you can see our planting materials, what we're looking at, and where we're features to screen the garage, but also make it attractive. It's not just a roadblock. It's kind of like just softening the views in the area and what we're trying to achieve here. I think that probably said enough on it. So.
All right, thank you for the presentation. We'll then move on to feedback from the local design review committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Little Italy Design Review Committee on October 24th for their final review. And there was a lot of discussion with the committee. They discussed the appropriateness of the double wide driveway, the garage in the front, the existing building conditions. Ultimately, what they decided was they did a motion that did not pass for approval of the new construction. And so the new construction is not recommended for approval. And the demolition was recommended for approval with the requirement of a certificate of appropriateness. The members of the committee were not worried that the lot would remain empty and the building would go there. So they understood the limitations with the existing house, but had a lot of concerns with the proposed new construction.
Thank you. And landmark staff review.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This had been reviewed conceptually by this board on August 10th. And we also discussed the appropriate for the front loading garage in historic districts. And while we consider everything on a case-by-case basis, we still feel that this has improved since its conceptual review. Materials are better. However, the front loaded garage is still a sticking point and is not appropriate nor allowable by code. 337.23 accessory uses in residence districts says that parking spaces for the occupants of the premises and when the premises is used for other than residence purposes for their employees, patrons, or guests, provided they are located in the rear half of the lot. This is an interior lot, so detached garages are permitted provided they are located in the rear half of the lot. Attached garages are permitted provided they are located in the rear half of the lot or provided they have their entire width and height screened from a required or actual front yard setback building line by an active use of at least 9 feet in depth. Should also note that parking in the front yard is also not allowable. The French door solution, while creative, is not a design element appropriate to the neighborhood. Part of the design issue is the encroachment on the property of a stairway to the roof next door for the garden area, which comes onto this property, which we're not sure how that got missed during our review process for the other house. We agree with and echo the concerns of the design review committee. We don't feel there's a hardship here as a rear garage where the driveway can be achieved as evidenced by the existing building and with the design that was the alternate design that was shown here. We're not only designing for the current owner, but for future owners, future generations. And so the long-term compatibility of the design in its context while maintaining the walkability of the street is important. We lament another contributing structure being demolished. This shows the need for better and more minimum maintenance code enforcement in our historic districts, which has been a long problem that's not on them, that's just something that we have to address as a city. Staff would recommend denial of certificate of appropriateness as presented.
Right, thank you. We'll then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who'd like to start us off? Oh, I'm sorry, would you
May
like
I
to make?
one comment?
Yes, before we,
At the time, the Little Italy design review, there were 7 people present at that meeting. After that meeting, we were encouraged to ask the neighbors. And so we put together a petition explaining the reason for needing a garage in the front. And I'm happy to read you that petition, or I can just tell you, 5 more people on the Little Italy Review Corporation, or LIRC, have agreed that this is a necessary adjustment to allow this type of a garage that's an attractive front of a home to exist in order to make family homes that are livable in today's needs, to meet the needs of today's families. This home, the lot is 35 feet wide. We didn't create that size. The lot came that size when we purchased it. So we are bound to move in on the side that's next to my other daughter's house by 3 feet to allow the 6 feet variance, or to allow the 6 feet between, because they're also in. The other house on the other side is on our property line. So we are bound to move in 6 feet on our own property on that side. So given that, that reduces a 35-foot lot down to 29 feet. A home has to have walls. Those walls will take away at least another foot on both sides. So we're talking about a 28 at most, that's max, width of a home that has to have rooms inside that require walls. So you're talking then about rooms that become at most 12 by however long you want to go, but nobody, you want an attractive home to live in, you want a comfortable home to live in. And given the lot size that we must stick with, we can't, unless the neighbor next door wants to sell, but I haven't heard that, we have to build a livable home, not only for us, but for the future of Little Italy. Little Italy was made for families that immigrated here in the late 1900s. And they were families with children. And they made these homes for families to live in. Today is 2023. We are trying to make a family home to keep the traditions that Little Italy was established on in today's needs for families to exist. As it is, the size home that could be built, allowing a garage in the back, you wouldn't have a yard, you would have a driveway on at least a fourth of the lot to get back there, allowing for a small home that's really only inhabitable for a single person, retirees, or a young couple. It's not appropriate for family. It could be appropriate if you want to cram in, but none of us live like that today that can. And Little Italy needs families there. I'm on the school board in Little Italy. We would love to have Live a Montessori filled, but there are not many families down there because the housing does not allow family spaces. This home could solve that problem. So I just want you to know, yes, at that meeting, they voted 5-2, 5 no's, 2 yeses. Since then, we have 7 more yeses from people like Joe Sideri, Ron Richard, Marcella Diaz, who's on that committee, TJ DeSanto, I can't think, they're on here and I have the printed out documents. But in fact, Ron Richard had tried to get into that meeting and was not pleased when I told him that they had voted no. He said, I couldn't even get in. He tried the link and was not permitted in. So I'm not sure if there's only 7 people on that committee, but we know 5 more that are part of Little Italy redevelopment that say, please allow this design. Thank you for listening.
One of the items I'm gonna add is
Thank you.
that board, they loved the design. They liked what it looked. They just basically held true to the detached garage concept. And I guess, you know, obviously I try and submit based on our merits, what we're doing here. But I would like to add, I would like to have, you know, possible discussion to understand, and I know everything gets looked at on a case by case basis, but under construction now, a block away on a lot that is larger than our lot, a house is under construction that is very similar, more modern, but very similar, and it creates solid walls where the garage is. I just got to see the design of that. Love it. It's a great look. But the lot itself, their lot is 40 foot wide and 150 foot deep versus ours. So they could have green space even with a detached garage. You know, and they could have something to live in.
But they were permitted to put the garage in.
Yeah, there was an approval there. So trying to understand, you know, to say appropriateness, and you know, I think what we're trying to do is make this basically the walkable community. I understand. You know, I look at the house next door. There's nothing attractive about it. It's solid, and there's nothing. I know you have no control over what it is now because it's there, and there's a lot of those like that. So we're trying to create something special. It's witnessed by the first house that they had done. Everyone walks in and he goes, "Boy, we love this. We love what we're seeing," and that's the approach we're taking.
Thank you. Thank you for that addition. We will then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments.
I do have a question. So currently there are no existing curb cuts on this property. Is that accurate?
There's
That's the drive.
Mhm.
I can jump in with some comments. So generally speaking, I, you know, through the chair respectfully, think that families can live in different kinds of spaces. My family with my daughter lived in a 3-bedroom apartment with street parking, and that was fine. So my whole thing is, you know, I think families can live in different kinds of spaces, and you see that all over our city and all over the world. So commentary aside, I think that I'm generally fine with the architecture and understand the need for the side yard setbacks. I will not support a curb cut or a front loaded garage. I actually think that creating that double wide is actually pretty hard for kids because with a wide curb cut and you have kids coming across the sidewalk, it can be easy for cars to actually disrupt the walkability with that double wide curb cut. I won't support the variance either for a front loaded garage in this instance. And I think that aside, the architecture is fine. And it's broadly speaking, I'm open to it. I'm curious to hear what the other commission members think about the architecture and the materials, but I wanted to state that up front.
Thank you, Director Wong. Other commission members, questions or comments?
Yes, hi, can you hear me, Madam Chair? It's
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
thank you. My question is, I know there are different models of homes that's going to be built in a lot of different neighborhoods in different structures and different styles. And I know the garages are not always going to be in the same place on homes in different communities. So this is not really my expertise in a sense, understanding how these new homes are going to be built in different areas and what the permit is permitted for how the homes need to be built with the attached garage. So my question is, how, what other place can the garage be attached, if not in the front? Because we visited that site months ago, and the way and the width of the houses, how they're so close knitted together, where else can they build up, attached to the garage, other than going from the other side of the first house that they built for the car to enter into, if it's not be able to be parked on the street? If someone like Carter could answer that question, or Director Hahn, since this is not really my expertise, but I'm just trying to figure out, what other attached, that garage can be attached to.
Yeah. So looking at the staff, if they wanted to answer, but I'm happy to jump in.
Sure. Well, we could look at, how about an L-shaped building that pulls off from the back of the lot, allows green space behind it, and could cantilever over and connect that way. To me, that would be the most immediate way, that way they get more space going out and over to their needs. But you can still have it that way in your lot.
Yeah, so that's a design idea. Councilwoman Gray, across the city, you would need a variance at Board of Zoning Appeals to do a front-loaded garage at this time, and there needs to be a special reason for that.
Okay.
So at this time, what is allowable by code, by zoning code, is a detached rear garage, or perhaps even a rear access attached garage, depending on the site plan. And in addition to the variance for the front-loaded garage, they would need to request a curb cut permit, essentially, as well.
Okay. Okay.
Any additional questions, Councilman Gray?
Well, no, I don't. No, not at this time. Probably not. I'm just trying to figure out, because the area is so small, and how it is, how that area is set up over there with the small interest of all these homes. The next question is, I'm not sure it was answered. What other attachment that garage can be attached to, and what interest they can get into to their backyard, if they can't put the garage to the back end of a house because it's so small.
If I might add, I mean, based on the idea of trying to do an attached garage in the back, it can't be side loaded because there's not enough, at 35-foot wide, and the clearance of the garage, there's not enough turning radius to make it into the garage. If we did a rear loaded garage where it backs in, we basically make a whole backyard that would be paved in order to do multiple turns to get into the garage in terms of maneuverability. And then you'd basically cut off the house from the backyard by doing that. So that wouldn't be a solution.
Understand. Thank you. Moving on to additional questions, Ms. Williams.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure I understand exactly what the concern is. It seems to me that this is a beautiful home. It looks that way on the screen that I'm facing right now. And certainly when we visited the site, the home next door was incredibly beautiful. But I also noted that there were a lot of well-maintained, modest, and beautiful homes on the street already. So I agree with the earlier comments that families can live in different types of spaces. And it seems to me that the major concern is just with the garage. There were adjustments made related, to the stucco, and now there's siding and brick accents. But the main sticking point, it seems to me, is the garage. Is that correct? Is that what the design review committee was also most concerned about, the location of the garage?
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, but everything else, the basic design, the way it looks from the street, everybody, and the materials used. Everyone is fine with that?
The other issue was the metal roof, which would not be appropriate for the historic district, nor in the urban context. That's more.
Oh, okay.
That would not be appropriate in this context either.
All right. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, I think, the other issue is the potential for people parking in the front of the building, which again, is not something we'd like to see in a really walkable neighborhood. In addition, is really close to other key places of transportation. And so my recommendation would be to, adjust the design to ensure that there is no front-loaded garage. And if it needs to be that width, to consider the, I don't know what the street parking situation looks like, but that is actually part of the historic pattern of the neighborhood, is these tighter walkable spaces that, again, that double wide curb cut is, when I'm walking with my kid and they have to cross lots of curb cuts, that's like where I get nervous because they're running across. And so that's my key issue, is the double wide curb cut with a front loaded garage with cars right there. As I say, cars can't see little people, so it's my mantra with my kids.
Thank you, Director Wong. Other questions and comments from the commission?
I do have some comments. I want to reiterate the standing seam metal roof. That would not be appropriate for this neighborhood. I also personally don't prefer the pergola or whatever roofing system is on the upper balcony. I don't think that's appropriate for this neighborhood. An upper balcony is, there's plenty of balconies up and down the street that have a full covered roof. I don't prefer the pergola, whatever you want to call that thing.
The trellis.
Trellis would be a good word. The other materials I think are great. The windows on the front of the building don't appear appropriate to me with this neighborhood. They're much more modern than what would be appropriate. The transom above and the multi-light on the transom, it doesn't fit with this neighborhood. It should be at least a double hung or a 2/2 or a 4/4 or something similar to what you would see up and down the street.
Mr. Strickland.
Madam Chair. I think that the design certainly has been improved from the the concept design that we initially reviewed. But I also have a problem with the metal roof. I don't think it's appropriate. And I also can't support the front-loaded garage. And in terms of process, even if we were to issue a certificate of appropriateness, I believe it's still up to the applicant to obtain a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is certainly not guaranteed. So I'm not sure, in terms of process, what should come first, but I would hate to give the applicant the false impression that a certificate of appropriateness, if it was approved, would guarantee the issuance of a variance for a front-loaded garage. And but regardless, I can't support the front-loaded garage as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland.
I seem to remember when we did the first house, unless things have changed, there were variances attached to that, but they were part of the approval process, and we didn't have to go through any additional.
Usually you want to get the approvals from the commission first, because that weighs a lot for the approval of the Board of Zoning Appeals. But in something of this nature that there's a lot of concern about, you should still get this first, or a denial first. Get this process done first before, because I don't believe have you applied for a building permit yet?
No, we're designing.
Okay, so the Board of Zoning Appeals process will not be initiated until a permit has been applied for.
Right.
So they haven't reached that, so.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. So I'm going to step back a little bit. I think we appreciate you wanting to invest in this community. and wanting to continue to raise families within this community because you stated it correctly. It is the backbone of what made this the community that it is the strength of family. So I commend you for that. And I would respectfully, echo some of the things that have been said about not being able to raise a modern family. I've lived in a house for the last 26 years, raised 2 kids, and have 4 drivers now that I have to park cars for myself on a lot this size with a detached garage and a much smaller house. So I think you can do it. You have to be creative. You have to be flexible. But you also have to have commitment to the area, which I feel you do have commitment to this area. So I want to commend you, and I think the design has come a long way, but I do hear a lot of the similar feedback that the design would be much more accepted and approved if you would reconsider the garage, because we think your house is close, it's just the garage that is in the metal roof. I guess if we want to state clearly the 2 things that are, there are the whole conversation has really, evolved around. So I think it's there's 2 different ways that we can go with this application. Is either we could table you to allow you to further investigate the design that you already have, and I think you are really close with that current design. You have already demonstrated the flexibility or the creativity to allow these rules of the detached garage, or it doesn't have to be detached. It's a garage on the rear of the house, not within the first third of the property. 50% of the property. Thank you for clarifying that. I think there is that creativity that could be there. You've already started the process, and is it perfect? No, but it would meet the spirit of the area, the letter of the law, and meet your needs for wanting to have a 2-car garage on this property. The other option is that we could go ahead with a vote and see if you are approved or disapproved. If you're disapproved, you would have to restart the application process again with an alternate option.
Well, I guess the one question I do have is, after I brought it up, no one wanted to talk about it, is why was the house a street over approved? With the front garage, modern metal roof, a lot of different things, things going on there. I mean, if you can pull it up, but I mean, it's when you talk about being appropriate, it's far from, here we're materialistically, we're fitting more into the neighborhood. I mean, everything about that, I'd like a little bit of an explanation.
Dr. Wong?
I don't know, I can't remember exactly the specific design of the room and the architecture, but that was specific to the front-loaded garage. I remember that case. Was that last year?
Yeah, it's under construction.
Yeah, so my thoughts around the curb cut has changed around the front-loaded garage. And it is in our code that we do not permit front-loaded garages unless there's a special occasion or a special exception.
Thank you, Director Wong.
Well, I understand your comment, for sure. But to me, I'm still waiting for the reason why that was allowed.
I would submit that we are a special exception. Our lot is even smaller, and still to put a garage in the back of the house, it separates the house from the yard where children would be playing. And this design allows you to have a yard in the back. And taking spaces, putting another cut, a garage width is a car pulling in. So it's not the length of a car. We would not be taking any more spaces off the street than are now available, because you parallel park, and here you're pulling in. So we're actually taking more cars off the street than allowing in. This house is one house away from the corner. At this point, there's modern homes all around us with windows even more modern than these, and these windows they have a transom across the top, which many old windows do, and a lot of those transom windows in older homes have the stained glass windows, which are beautiful, but it's the design with a big window on the bottom and the transom across the top, which this does mimic those windows. I am not tied to a metal roof. We're happy to put tiles, but everything being built in Little Italy right now is many apartments, many a condo, not condo necessarily, but apartment buildings, dorms down at the one end. They take a lot. And if it happens to be lucky enough to be one that's really deep, like the one that does have the front-loaded garage, they're turning it and making 4 homes down the side. It's not even a home for a family. Again, it's not like a neighborhood home. They're multi-unit. This home meets everything that Little Italy was built on. And to have a safe backyard for kids, the front garage is the only place that it fits. You can't fit the interior of the house, the livable interior, where it's really a great room in the back that's probably 1,000 square feet. And then you go upstairs and there are 3 bedrooms. Then you go upstairs further and there's a bonus room, like an office where Mark works from home sometimes. He's employed by KeyBank. Sometimes he comes in, sometimes he's at home. Trying to figure out how he's gonna keep my daughter happy, but it'll work. So we're not talking a gargantuan home here. This is a modest home. I grew up in a tiny home with 3 daughters, and this is probably slightly bigger than that. I was the oldest of 3 daughters. My parents, we had 3 bedrooms, and we lived there comfortably, and it was fun. We had a yard to play in, and it was in a little tiny city. But to my point, this home fits into what is happening in Little Italy and actually brings back a home rather than a multi-unit building that has been allowed numerous, and probably one being built right now as we speak. They are happening so fast.
So, Madam Chair, I'm wondering if we could go back to your original question to see if the applicants would be interested in a postponement or tabling to allow more time.
And Madam Chair, may I speak? I'm Rich Garshen, Robin's husband, lived in the neighborhood. Mark's gonna be our future son-in-law. Can't wait for that to happen. In Louisville, we've lived down there for 4 or 5 years over at Quattro. It is an eclectic community with different houses. Want to make sure the correction, the current house is not a single family house. It was built that way, but it's been chopped up to a two-unit place for college students. And it's absolutely disgusting. It's a small house. It's obsolete today's standards, obsolete from 30 years ago. You talk about pergolas, there's brand new houses right behind us with pergolas in the backyards too. Everything's down as the Wild West. Next door has fire escapes. Across the street has fire escapes. We don't have fire escapes. We're trying our best. We look long and hard. I'm involved with a private equity firm that owns the garage door manufacturer. We called them and says, this is what we want to do. And they gave us, their competitor said, this is the perfect garage door. You don't even know it's a garage door. You look at the stuff, you'd walk down the street and you wouldn't know if it's a rec room, if it's someone's bedroom, or whatever. You couldn't tell. You would never know that's what the case is. We're trying our dangest. As Robin's right, we can put any type of roof on the side, whatever pleases the commission. But to really make a livable house for a family down there, we think this, and Fred, we keep on paying them to keep on redoing stuff. After a while, we just may let the house sit there. That's what you guys want.
No. We will reach a solution.
With that, I mean, I personally have no issue with a single family home. I think it's lovely. Again, comes down to the double loaded garage issue. And just for the sake of our discussion, would like to make a motion to postpone to allow for that solution to be. Permission. Okay, so I guess to the chair, it's up to the applicant, it sounds like to.
So the first time here, we understood the concerns, but no one said no to the front loading door.
So again, through the chair, the options are, if we should want to go with a vote today for approval or disapproval or tabling. And so that is that is, I believe, what we should.
So I think we appreciate and support a single family home here, and we really, would like you to continue to be a member of the community. But I think, as Director Wong has said, we're to the point of that, we have two options that, we could table you to allow you time to explore the single loaded, removing the garage, front loaded garage from the design and exploring alternate options in more detail. Or we can go to vote on this scheme here. So it's really up to you how you'd like to proceed. We can go either way, but like we said, we really support a single family home in this community, and we really would like you to be part of it. But we're trying to meet the standards of the area or reinforce, let's say, some of the standards that may have gotten a little bit looser than the community wants.
We just had a house being built right now, it's worse looking. I've seen support looking house. Frank Bellucci built a house on East 126th Street with the garage dipping down. With a double wide cut.
Well,
Right. So I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that one, and we can't discuss those, at this point, at this time.
And the last comment is that the Little League development, the area, we gave the presentation, people loved it.
The block meeting, they have.
We have a petition signed by 35 residents in the neighborhood, fully supporting it. We got the support of Wayne Griffin, I'm sure Councilwoman Gray supporting it.
Well, then if we do table you, it would allow you time to submit those as per the proper channels to allow us to take that more into consideration. Because right now that is part of our process, that we do need things to be officially submitted. And if the councilman was in support too, that would be also part of what really should be submitted and part of this. So we would really, like we said, like to find a solution to make this work for you. But right now, I think you've heard some of the feedback on the design. We can move forward and vote and go through finalize this process, or we could table you to allow you to reevaluate your design to see if you can come to a solution that can meet your needs and the needs of the district.
Madam Chair, if we were to vote, what would you vote?
That does not matter at this point, Ian. It's really your choice of how you'd like us to move forward.
I would like you to know, as you're considering, I think we should share and let you all consider, but I want you to know, we started this design process a year ago. We did try a backyard garage. The lot doesn't allow it. The house, the size of the rooms in the house are not large, and they can't be made much smaller. It just doesn't allow it. We've gone through, we're Fred's favorite client because we keep redesigning and redesigning, trying to get this garage to work with a driveway down the side, yard enough for a swing set, playing. We've gone through every iteration that we possibly can to get a garage in the back. It simply does not fit on a 3,500 square foot yard.
So, Madam Chair, I'm not hearing from the applicant that they are willing to table, so with that, I'm going to make a motion to. Yeah, we need to hear from the applicant.
Well, I said I am willing to table, but I want you to understand
Based on what you said about, it probably makes sense to table based on getting the ducks in a row with the councilwoman and all the people that are in support of this new neighborhood.
In that case, then I make a motion to postpone the agenda item to allow more time for the applicant.
So motion to table.
I'll second.
We have a second, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Bob Strickland. I have a question about the consideration of demolition of the existing house. And if that needs to be separated from tabling the design of the new house. I want to make sure that the existing house is stable. And
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Yes, that would be a second vote. That would be regarding the demolition. So this is specifically only about the proposed design. Does that clarify?
So we could take up a motion to approve the demolition of the house without regard to the status of the new design.
Correct, following the completion of this motion. So we have a motion to table, we have a second. Any further discussion related to the proposed design? Right, Mr. Mussin, please call roll.
All right, Mr. Dryer? Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Director Wong?
Yes.
Mr. Sambry?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Mr. Trassick?
Yes.
Dr. Williams? And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion to table passes unanimously.
So you've been tabled, so to allow you the time to continue the exploration, of the design and to submit any further documentation that you feel is appropriate. We'll then move on the proposed demolition of the existing house. Do we have a motion?
I would move to approve the demolition of the existing house.
We have a motion on the table. Do you have a second?
A second.
Madam Chair,
We have multiple seconds. I think that was Mr. Edmund and Mrs. Williams. Any further discussion? I think the one, I would add that the one condition be added to the motion is that the approval of the proposed design prior to the demolition, although we think it should come down. We want to assure that a house is going to go up and a lot does not sit vacant. So I will recommend that condition. I'm sorry, who made the motion initially?
So you're saying that we couldn't take it down, we have to have the design approval first?
That was a recommendation of the CDC. So we're just adding that, yes.
So is Mr. Strickland?
Madam Chair, I did have a question about the stability of the existing residence to make sure that we're not creating a hazard.
Okay.
Continue to stand.
All right, thank you. Does staff have feedback on the condition?
It didn't seem like it was going to, I don't think it was an immediate concern, but like I said, I think they also shared it was not. We feel that something is gonna be here, so and there was nothing to salvage that we noticed while we were there. So it's not gonna collapse in on itself immediately. I mean, if they want to get a permit to get rid of the garage, that can be done. But I really don't have anything on taking this building down right now. So,
Okay.
We'd like to be able to take it down because there's so many openings in the house that it could not be found. The foundation is immense, and so it gets infested by animals and things of that nature. It's hard to stop and see them. Like I said, looks like things in that big.
Okay, then I will remove my recommendation. We'll strike it from the records.
All right, so the motion will stand.
The motion will stand.
Just to approve as presented.
To approve as presented the demolition of the existing house and garage. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Mussin, please call roll.
All right, Mr. Dryer? Mr. Dryer, are you there?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund, you're on mute.
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yeah.
Director Wong had to step up. Mr. Sambry?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Trassick?
Yes.
Dr. Williams?
Yes.
And Ms. Trott?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
So your demolition has been approved, but we look forward to seeing you back. You can come back to us as soon as 2 weeks at our next meeting, or is it 2 weeks? Because the holiday.
3
weeks. As soon as 3 weeks, if there's room on the agenda. But we look forward, as we mentioned, we look forward to seeing you stay part of this community, and we look forward to you coming back to us.
Great.
Right?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your feedback.
Just wait for some, to move on to the next applicant.
Yes.
You are welcome to come up here. We'll move on to the next applicant, the window replacement. Our next applicant is located 11025 Wade Park Avenue, window replacement of the building.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us in person.
Well, this is a first, so bear with me.
Well, welcome.
I do very little public speaking.
Just a conversation at a table.
Only to the contractors. Okay, we're here about the windows at 11025 Wade Park. I think that was the only issue that they really had, and it was about the front windows, as I understand. Okay. I'm asking for consideration for Ms. Johnson, who's the owner. She had a fire there, and she also has, unbeknownst to us, she had a lead order in the house to remove the windows. So the thing was is that the insurance company is only liable for that they would pay for if it had something to do with the fire. So the insurance company allowed 8 windows to be replaced. That's what they paid for. Ms. Johnson has over 35 windows. I had to absorb the balance of the 5 windows so that I could get the job closed out, because obviously she can't have those wood windows going up and down. So Ms. Johnson we're both residents of that area. She's been there and her family 60 some years. And I bought my house in 1991 on Wade Park as well. And I was retired or semi-retired. And Ms. Johnson brought me out of retirement to have all of these issues.
Neighbors to help.
My neighbor, and I'm asking for consideration because we can keep the lower windows and add one sash, but I would have to make them unoperable.
And they're unoperable.
But
they've never been open.
But she has steam heat. So the only way that she would be able to get air into that room would be if she had windows that were operable. The side lights we could do nothing about. Those are just there. They were non-operable anyway. The electrical, again, the insurance company is only paying for a third of what that was. But as a responsible contractor, I decided, because her house is over 100 years old and she has all knob and tube and knob. So I'm replacing it again at my expense because she's my neighbor, okay? And I have to see her in the grocery store, and I'm not trying to sit down at any holiday and something goes wrong with the knob and tube. So that's another cost of about $10,000 that I'm also taking out. The plumbing, same issue. If it did not go with the fire, basically, I'm absorbing a lot of the cost, just to get her done. We've been down there, like I said, we've been there for a long time. And we've been through a lot of bad times. When our parents her parents bought their house. And at that time, we had, I guess in the 60s, a lot of people who looked like me and her didn't live there and couldn't afford to be there. So when you get there, no inspections was done on the house, anything. You was just moving up, okay? But it was dilapidated. We didn't know that the guts of the house weren't, operable. We thought we were getting a good deal. Okay. I just happened to be a contractor when I bought my house, so it was a little bit different. But everything in her house is almost rigid. A lot of repair. Our parents were only able to maintain and patch up. Now we see the same people who sold those houses to us come back and buy the houses and willing to do a lot more and put money into it. But the people who've been there, it's a lot to maintain these houses. And yes, we have the option to move somewhere else. But I grew up on 79th and Melrose, okay? And I remember my parents riding down Wade Park, and I come from a family of 13. And my mother would say, "Oh, I'd love to have one of those houses." Well, she couldn't fulfill her dream, but I bought it for the backyard. For my daughter to have a backyard to play in, okay? And I had options to move out. But now it's just like, I did not vote for it to be a historical area because I knew what the impact would be on the neighborhood. because there was a lot of people there that could not afford to maintain to their standard, you know. And as we ride up and down the streets all day long, we see contractors and developers and all these people doing everything and anything to this area. But the people who live there, we're always penalized. Okay, there's vinyl siding going on people's houses in this area. There are vinyl windows throughout the neighborhood. You know, I can point to several houses. A lot of them are contractors or developers, but you know, for the homeowners, I'm not gonna turn them in. I'm not gonna say anything, okay? Because that's not my job. I'm not supposed to police the area. But again, we're just trying to give her the best house that we can give her for the amount of money that we have. So I'm just asking, because of the consideration, like I said, I did not know she had a lead order. You know, because then I would have probably tried to fight a little bit more with the insurance company, which I went over and over and over again. They said it's not anything due to it. And she can't afford to replace all those. But I can't get the job signed off unless the windows are done. So that's where.
Oh,
I went on mute for a moment, but
oh, can everyone hear us online now?
yep.
Yes, okay. Thank you for the presentation. I'm gonna ask maybe staff, before we jump into the comments, if you could just review for everyone so they're aware of what is being replaced and what we're in, just a quick overview and then.
Yes, so they are replacing the operating windows on the home. So there's a few on the front, there's a few non-operating windows that are pretty much
Side lights.
Yeah, side lights that are not gonna be changed, that are existing, they're not changing. The other windows will
And the
be,
awning windows. It's 2 awning windows that's unoperable, so
yes.
they're fixed.
So the rest of the windows are gonna be replaced with operable white vinyl windows with the configuration that matches what is existing. The house has a mixture of 8/1, more like a cottage stash, there's 4/1, there's 6/1, and so the plan is to replace those windows with the same configuration that is being removed.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we will move on to design review committee recommendations.
So this was reviewed by the Magnolia Lake Park East Boulevard Grant Allotments Design Committee last week. Yes, and they did not have quorum, but they did discuss the appropriateness for retaining the original window configurations, which we're very happy about. Preference for alternative window materials, the higher quality window on the front of the home, and then one of the committee members present mentioned the octagon detail on the door that she thought was really cool and should stay. But overall, they were understanding and supportive of updating the windows, just with the preference of the higher quality one.
Thank you for that. Landmark staff review comments?
Yeah, I guess this is a case where staff feels that the configuration is more critical to the design of the house than the materials necessarily. You know, we'd love to see an upgraded material, but given the financial situation, the lead order, the insurance, it's a kind of complicated case that I'm sure has been a breeze to walk through.
No, I should be retired.
Yeah, right.
Completely retired.
But I think given the added cost of a material change for the upgraded window, in this case, staff is supportive of the proposal, but we'd love to see the muttons or the grid supplied on the exterior, just to kind of reinforce the configuration of the windows in the original style.
And is the proposed materials and windows, are they exterior applied muttons or are they internal muttons?
The internal.
Between the glass.
Okay. So I think that's something to consider. We can continue to talk about. Okay, thank you for those comments. We'll then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. I'll go first. I think that is something, obviously we understand the situation here and, the cost of replacement and related to the insurance. You're a little probably hamstrung of what you can and can't do within that, the funds that are allotted. The one condition though of the Muttons exterior applied would be something I think would be I think essential to me, to allow this to move forward, just so that it does, really allows that Mutton to really come through. Where the internal ones, it's, it's very easy for them to not be appreciated and visible, as versus the exterior applied. So I think that is, I can support this in because of the circumstances that has caused the need to replace this, and in the timetable that you need to replace it. I can make it an exception because of that. Other questions or comments from the commission?
I have a question.
Mr. Sandberg?
Are there storm windows on the outsides? Are you
Most
keeping
of
those? Are you?
For the ones that were in good condition, we were keeping them because again, it wasn't in the insurance contract.
So,
And we asked her if she wanted to remove windows, and she said, no, just keep the storm windows. And then I would have to also, paint the parting stop, because in between the window and the, the storm window, there's a piece of wood, so that has to be painted, so that she could use the window.
for flood abatement?
Yes.
Yeah. So because of that, I think from the outside, a button on the outside wouldn't make a difference. If there's storms retained. Obviously I'd like buttons on the outside, but I think visually it's not going to make a difference
Good point. I think for this current,
for this particular.
as of today, it won't make a difference,
Correct.
but in the future,
Correct.
it could make a difference. So, but great point. Great point. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Sandberg?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm still not quite clear in terms of the scope with the number of windows that are being replaced and where they're located. But I just wanted to build upon your comment with regard to the exterior applied muttons and clarify that my position would be that the exterior applied muttons just on the front of the house would be satisfactory to me. So if there are any other, like on this elevation, I think that recreating the mutton pattern just with interior muttons would be sufficient if any of those windows are going to be replaced as well. But just on the front of the house, the exterior applied muttons would be satisfactory in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback, Mr. Strickland. Other questions or comments from the commission? Any other questions or comments from the commission, or would someone like to put forward a motion?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve as presented with the recommendation of ones on the outside or the front side.
Would you like to, or could you also state why we're accepting this, why it's the exception that is associated with your motion?
This is an exception because of fire damage and lead paint abatement, and financial concerns.
Thank you. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Alan, I'll second.
We have a second. Thank you. And Mr. Dryer, any further discussion? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Great, thank you, Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Edmund,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Trosik,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you. We look forward to seeing your project and move forward. You are officially approved.
Oh.
So-
So what do we approve for?
You-
Buttons or no buttons, or because you got storm windows, so you're not gonna be.
The muttons on the front.
Muttons on the front elevation.
I just.
Exterior, but we can discuss that.
Yeah, we
We'll
can.
follow up.
It was a recommendation.
That was a recommendation, not a condition. Okay,
That's what I said.
all right. That's critical.
We'll follow up.
Yeah, we'll follow up this afternoon
Okay,
or
I
tomorrow morning.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right,
Like I
thank
said,
you.
I mean, if I had the extra money, because it's just so much that her house needs, you know, and I have to make, like I said, I couldn't forego the electric. I just couldn't.
Right.
Not in a good conscience.
Safety first.
Safety first, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our certificates of appropriateness for today. We'll move on to meeting minutes. There are 4 meeting minutes that were circulated for approval. Does anyone from the commission have questions or comments related to the meeting minutes? Not seeing any. Would someone like to put forward a motion?
Move to approve the meeting minutes of October 10th, 2019, October 24th, 2019, November 14th, 2019, and September 28th, 2023.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Williams and Mr. Carter. We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Hey, Mr. Dreyer,
Yes.
Mr. Edmond,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
excellent. All right, then we will move on to administrative reports. We have a design review committee update.
Just gonna grab the clicker real quick.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to take the, I guess, opportunity, since we have a short agenda, to kind of give the commission I guess, like a year-to-date report, and then let you guys know the direction we're heading with the design review committees and get some feedback from the commission here. So I prepared a little presentation. So, as you all know, the Landmarks Commission is responsible for determining whether buildings, sites, or historic districts are eligible for designation as landmarks. The Commission follows established criteria listed in the Landmarks Ordinance and uses the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and reviewing proposed changes. We also conduct a continuing survey of historic properties within the city for purposes of designation as a Cleveland landmark and/or listing in the National Register of Historic Places. The Commission also informs citizens about the architectural and historical heritage of Cleveland. The Commission acts as a certified local government in coordination with the State Historic Preservation Office in cases involving Section 106 and environmental reviews and in National Register of Historic Place designations. While it requires City Council to pass legislation to designate a property as a Cleveland landmark, that process begins after lengthy research by staff with a nomination by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission, as you all know. And so far this year, the commission has nominated 3 properties for landmarking, but we're anticipating finishing the year with at least 4 nominations, including one that will have representatives from Cleveland Restoration Society presenting next month. So far this year, City Council has designated 3 properties as landmarks. We're hoping that we'll have at least 1 more property designated before the end of the year, which will put us on par for previous years. Carl. So we currently have 350 individually designated landmarks in the city, in addition to the 29 historic districts, which make up roughly 7,000 permanent parcels throughout the city. As we all know, when any kind of exterior change is being proposed on a landmark property, it must first obtain a certificate of appropriateness before a permit can be issued. So far in 2023, Landmark staff has reviewed 645 permit applications for proposed projects in landmark districts and on individually designated properties, and that puts us on pace to have reviewed about 600 applications by the end of the year. As we see all kinds of projects, from roof and window replacements to new construction of buildings that house hundreds of units. The scale of the project dictates the level of review a project is giving. At the beginning of 2023, Landmark staff took on administration of our design review committees. Its responsibility was previously overseen by the Community Development Corporations, but it was determined that for the sake of consistency, efficiency, and making the process more straightforward for applicants, the Landmark staff administer and facilitate each of our 7 design review committees. At this year's 90 design review committee meetings, we have reviewed 195 individual cases, which puts us on track to have helped roughly 250 applicants through the design review process by the end of the year. The design review committees are advisory to the Landmarks Commission, so again, depending on the scale and scope of the project, staff can administratively approve certain actions, and other projects are administratively signed off on, or after review by the design review committee. As I mentioned a moment ago, Landmark staff has administered 90 design review committee meetings, which puts us on pace to have held over 100 meetings by the end of the year. So while we sign off administratively on some projects after local design review, some projects go to the full Landmarks Commission. So far this year, you guys have seen and reviewed 107 individual projects. So we expect to have reviewed about 125 by the end of the year. Well, we don't have the data for the cases reviewed by the design review committees before Landmarks staff took over administration of those meetings. If the pace keeps up, we'll be surpassing last year previous caseloads in all categories, especially the design review ones, since you got big zeros there. With taking over administration of the design review committees, staff has been looking at ways to streamline the process and ensure consistency throughout the committees and the process as a whole. So as you know from our recent appointments, we've been trying to add design and preservation professionals to each of the committees. Last year, City Planning Commission adopted some new and more specific rules about service on our design review committees. So those rules outline the length and terms and limits on the terms for any new member that may serve on a given committee. So the rules call for new members to serve a 1-year probationary period, being eligible for a total of 5 2-year terms for a total of 10 years after the probationary period. And then each committee is allowed to have no more than 11 members, although most of them have fewer than that limit. Staff is proposing to reduce the number of design review committees from 7 down to 6 by creating, going with a more regional approach. In the past, our design review committees were specific to individual historic districts. And, as time has moved on, we've been working to consolidate the committees. Already we've merged Franklin West Clinton Gordon Square and Clifton West Boulevard committees into the historic West Cleveland Design Review Committee. There have been some other mergers as well, like Tremont Brooklyn Center, and then the longest titled name of the Magnolia Wade Park East Boulevard Grantwood Allotments District. Got to come up with something maybe a good acronym.
Yeah.
That's in process. So the acronyms. So we'd kind of like to continue with those mergers to create more regional committees. As you can see from the map that's up now, we have historic districts and individually designated properties spread across the city. At this point, when we have a proposal in an individually designated property or in one of our smaller historic districts, they're reviewed through the city planning design review committees before proceeding to the commission here. If we go to the more regional model, we'd have Landmarks design review committees review any proposal on a landmark property, whether it's individually designated or part of a district. So it would ensure that projects are being reviewed under the Secretary of the Interior standards, which are not the same standards and guidelines used by the Planning Commission design review committees. So up on the screen now, you see the Planning Commission's design review districts, and it's kind of the model we propose moving towards. With the boundaries of these districts, they don't really align with our historic districts. So, just copying their map wouldn't work. But it's sort of that regional approach that we want to go with. And this map just shows the overlapping of our districts in the Planning Commission design review districts. So once we have a map of the districts we're proposing, I'm happy to share that with the commission. And at this point, unless there are objections from the commission, I'd like to start reaching out to the CDCs to discuss this and get their feedback on it. Ideally, we could kick off the kind of merged consolidated committees in 2024. But, you know, that, I guess that depends on how people feel about it and after I get the feedback. So I don't know if there are any questions, comments, thoughts?
I think that's really helpful to see it all written out, you know, especially since that's 200 permit applications a piece that I'm sure you guys all review of the 600 that come across your desk and all the meetings and cases in. So I personally think this is a good idea to help allow better reviews of each applicant, because you'd have more a larger pool of people that would be available to review these and assure a quorum, or it'd be more probable to have a quorum at these meetings versus not. Where right now, I know often in smaller communities or areas, it's often, you know, there's not a quorum to really give good feedback on those. So I personally support in the consolidation, you know, of the districts and committees to allow that. Other questions or comments from the commission?
How is the one group that's been consolidated, how's that worked so far?
The historic Western, Jessica staffs that one, but I mean, I think there were some hiccups at the beginning. There was some, I guess, controversy about the meeting times, so there was a bit of turnover at the beginning. I don't know, Jessica, if you want to.
Yes, it's been going really well. At the beginning, there was an adjustment period, getting used to it. It was a merger of the Clifton West Boulevard that also included Gordon Square. And then we brought in Lorraine Station and Lorraine Variety historic districts, and then merged it with the Franklin West Clinton, because one had the membership and the other had the numbers of cases, merging that together to kind of put everything in that area to one group. It also meant that one group changed their time that they met, the other group changed the date that they met, from they were opposite Wednesdays, and so there was a bit of an adjustment for who could make that time commitment as well. But once it settled, after a month or so, it became a group that they are, I think they're doing very well. I administer it, so I get to see them all the time. It's been really good at getting quorum, which has been really nice, because they do have a larger number of members. There are some committees that have like 5 people, and so you really need all of them to be able to have a good conversation. Whereas this group has about 7 or so now, which is a really good number to have a really good discussion each time projects come through. What's nice is they also get a wide variety of projects that come through. It's not just residential, it's not just commercial. So they get a nice wide range of large development projects, residential homes, and commercial storefronts. And churches, I guess, also.
Ms. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. One, I understand the concept of a regional approach as far as organizing the boundaries of the design review districts. But I'm wondering, you have all these statistics in terms of the number of applications. In terms of balance, in terms of workload, it seems to me, our experience is that various certificates of appropriateness is that we consider are more intense, I guess, in certain areas than others. And so in going to the regional approach, I'm wondering if you're looking at typical workloads and if that's given any consideration with how you ultimately set the boundaries for the design review committees. And my second question is if design review committees can have up to 11 members and some of those committees are not at the 11 count. Again, in terms of consistency, is there a effort underway to recruit additional design review committee members to get consistently to that 11-member threshold?
So short answer, yes and yes. Yeah, we definitely did consider and are considering the caseload and the numbers when we look at the geographies as far as where to draw the lines and also trying to factor in, when meetings are and, is it evening or during the day? Because we have, some design review committee meetings that happen during the daytime and some that are evening. So trying to find that right balance. I think there's going to be some shuffling around or moving of committee members. And I'd actually like to kind of, with this 2-year appointment thing, I'd like to get on a more, routine track that, if we're adding committee members throughout the year, that's great. But I think it would be nice to, like, every January, just a bit of housekeeping, like reappoint all the members for a new 2-year term, kind of have it staggered so that you're not reappointing everyone in a given year, but to just kind of have it as an annual thing, like, okay, these people haven't hit their, 5-term limit, so we're reappointing all these people. Then of course, adding new members throughout the year. And that's part of the reason, in getting feedback from the CDCs, I also want to talk to them about bringing people that they might know kind of into the loop. Because if we're expanding the geography so that it's not really just bound to the historic districts, there's a lot of individual landmarks scattered throughout the city. There's a lot of smaller historic districts like Newton Avenue or Finer Homes, and getting some representation, from those areas on the committees would be helpful too. There are certainly committees that have enough of a caseload that merging them doesn't make any sense. But in looking at that, turns out most of those are already products of mergers that happened years ago, just due to proximity and being adjacent to other historic districts, like specifically Ohio City. You've got in Tremont, you've got within the Ohio City Design Review District or Design Review Committee right now, you've got Franklin Circle, you've got Ohio City, you've got Market Square, you've got Lorraine Avenue. So it's not like that's just one district, but in effect, it behaves as one district as far as, the fact that you're not leaving one before you get in the other. They're all adjacent. So there are some that lend themselves to consolidation more than others. We've been, I guess, playing around with the map so far, but it's still definitely a draft. But yeah, to answer your question, Bob, the caseload definitely has factored into, where the geography falls.
Well, that's good to know, and I think certainly appropriate. And then, what's your experience been in terms of recruiting additional members onto design review committees? Is that a challenge, or do you think that can be achieved?
I think I need a signing bonus.
Yeah, I was going to say, it turns out when we just ask, people were more than willing to help. I know our chairperson has provided us with a number of resumes and referrals that have turned out, and we now have people that were brought to us through her on our different committees, and that's kind of part of that balance we want to strike of design and preservation professionals and then local residents as well. We don't want to become, we don't want to be just a block club, but we also don't want it to be, not to say out of touch, but people don't necessarily. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There needs to be considerations from both sides. So we're trying to strike that balance. And I think that's where we'll see some kind of reshuffling of committee assignments and that sort of thing.
So if you know anybody, bring them forward is what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Email.
All right. Will do. None come to mind immediately, but we'll work on it. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Is there any kind of requirements for the design review boards? I know that for this, there needs to be an architect, there needs to be a lawyer, there needs to be a bunch of positions.
There aren't any written rules that I'm aware of. I know broad experience is always preferred. It's great to have an attorney on every committee, but it's not necessarily the case in everything. It's not as prescriptive as our commission. The only real requirement is that you're appointed by the Landmarks Commission.
I know when I was part of the Far West Committee, and maybe it was just an unwritten rule that they always wanted to have like a business owner, a resident, or two, and a person from the professional realm or preservation on, that was not Landmarks focus, that was just design review. But maybe that was an unwritten rule. Go ahead, Carl.
Well, because we received nominations for the Landmarks Commission from three bodies, the Early Settlers Association, Historical Society, and AIA. What we've done also is reached out to them and say, hey, look, we know we want you to nominate people, so start building up a queue. And if you have that, then we can ask those people to serve on the local design review committee. It's almost like a training period before they can move up. Something opens up on the Landmarks Commission, then they've already got a little bit. I think it helps having that experience and actually reviewing cases first before moving up onto the Landmarks Commission. So we've asked them to start looking for additional people that they can consider that as well.
That's very good. Other questions or comments? All right, not seeing any. We look forward to seeing how this unfolds, and I think it's a great idea, though.
Thank you. I guess as far as other administrative business, just wanted to mention, sad for us, but I guess good for him, and congratulations to Carter. I believe today's his last meeting as a member of the Landmarks Commission. He's moving on to greener pastures and leaving his city.
Yeah, although my tenure here has been short, I've really enjoyed it, and it's always very interesting, and the discussion is always very thoughtful and lively, and appreciate this. So, but this will be my last meeting. My last day at the city is November 17th, and I'm, maybe I'll be seeing you on the other side of the table, eventually.
Well, your presence here at the committee will be sorely missed. Always enjoy your insight and level of detail. I guess just wanted to also mention that Director DeRosa has appointed Mark Dulick, who's going to be the acting manager of architecture and site development. So I assume Mark will be joining us next meeting, but I'll reach out and coordinate with him. But
yeah, that's correct. And if those of you that know Mark Dulick know that he is a very thoughtful, very knowledgeable about not just architecture, but historic design, and also knows a lot about the neighborhoods that we talk about here.
Well, Carter, I think I emailed this to you. I echo what Dan said. Your feedback and your insight has always been much appreciated, and your attention to the detail has also been appreciated. So, although we are sad to see you leave the commission, we encourage you to be part of the committees. No, so we could continue to have your impact on the city.
Well, we could talk more about that later.
There you go. Another one. No.
Right.
Thank you.
This bonus is getting crazy.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yes, that on Monday at 3:30, we have a site visit scheduled for a property on Clinton Avenue. Yeah, Clinton Avenue that someone's looking to demolish and propose new construction. So we'll be looking at going through a site visit just for the demolition on Monday. If anyone can join us, that would be great, and always good to see everyone out in the field.
All right, thank you. Any other reports? Is that it?
Is that enough?
That's enough. That is enough. So no, that was great. Thank you for the update on and everything. If there's nothing else that anybody has, then we'll adjourn today's meeting and see everyone in 3 weeks, which is the week after Thanksgiving. So I hope everyone has a great holiday, and we will see you then.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a great day.